Greetings, vloggers, followers, and potters. Dustin here from Dustin's Dynasty. Here are you again this week with another edition of this week's vlog. I want to welcome you and thank you for joining into my vlogs weekly. Much appreciated. So it's been a week. It's been quite a week of learning, quite a week of expanding and learning about myself and more about why I continue to do things. And, I really didn't have a topic earlier this week, early in the week, but now getting into the late part of the week, I'm starting to realize, that I really need to talk about this. And it wasn't even part of any of my scheduled blog posts, but I made it a blog post on Monday to bring it into a little more detail with my words so that I can get words across better than I can voices. But I think I had to bring it to light because I think also animating it and making it a part of what it is a part of what it is. So when you're autistic, you have to have purpose in life. And I think that's one of the hardest things I had to understand as an autistic man is that, sometimes we want to get into our anxiety and get our anxiety sometimes because we have comorbidities of anxiety that sometimes it gets the best of us. And for me specifically, it gets into the part of where I want to freeze and I want to get into this not freeze mode. I'm sorry. There's freeze, there's flight, there's flee, flight or freeze syndrome. Well, I often want to run away from my problems. I don't want to face them. I don't want to face reality. And sometimes reality can be something like doing the adult thing to do and just going through and bearing through the day and getting through the life's situations. Now, granted, I do understand that not everybody who is able to do that or so much as has the ability to do so can do it under certain circumstances. And there are those circumstances that it gets too much for somebody. But these are circumstances in my life that have been going on for decades, almost in some instances over a decade, that where I can withstand these things without a problem. And yet, we've done everything we can. We made things good. We've made things a blessing, and we've tried to make the medicine work. Everything's doing well. Everything is going so well, but yet I just cannot seem to find the happiness and joy in it. And I think the real thing is like, so somebody had to tell me, a couple people actually had to tell me that I had to have purpose in my life. And that purpose is what keeps me, or any autistic person for that matter, going in life. And that not having a purpose or not having something to do and keeping us engaged and throughout our lives as an autistic people with other needs, can sometimes be challenging, and it can result in us relapsing and getting back and regressing our behavior or what we've learned. And for a moment there during the pandemic, I may have regressed greatly, and that was because not only because of the pandemic, but because of multiple other factors, including the non-compliance of my medicine. So with getting back in track with the medicine, and not saying that was perfect either, and then having all these situational changes to my routine in the course of the past year, or even more than a year, 2 years, close to 2 years or three, I had been through a lot of transitioning changes in my life, and now we're at a point where we're just sitting down in life and just like we're able to breathe for a while and just think and work on the positive. And so it can be so hard sometimes as an autistic adult to actually think that there can be a positive moment to be happy about and feel that there's purpose in why I do things. But all aside from that, having the purpose, I think just having the willingness to go through with it and do it, without the flight mode kicking in, or the wanting to have attention, or seeking just negative attention from others. I think that makes it worse. And it's hard to see. You think you want a life without purpose. My mind, when I'm in that flight mode, my mind automatically thinks about having a life with no purpose or little purpose, where I don't rarely leave the home and I go out and about. And And we don't stop. I at least anyway, I guess I didn't really see what the long term or the long range effect of not having a purpose could do. It could, constantly cause more weight gain, which is something I really don't need. It could cause, a lot of regression. It could cause a lot of relapsing. So a lot of the things like of 2.5, close to 3 years ago could be repeating the cycle because I'm not taking care of myself. And I had to learn that having purpose is, something that I have to do to be well and stay well mentally, physically, spiritually, all dimensions of wellness. They all tie in. And sometimes it can be hard to go out the door. And I think any human being, at this point, especially almost 3 years into a global pandemic, can see where you struggle with just getting out the door because our world has been changed so much. Regardless of what's going on outside of it, we need to find a way, as autistic people, to just cope with life and go through with life circumstances. Sometimes it's not always easy, but we do it. And I think that's the thing. I'm a resilient person, and I can do it. I just think it's it's in that downtime that I feel that, in that downtime, I get into them moods and they get into that swing. And if you follow my blog, and I encourage you to visit Dustin'sDynastyUSA.com, where you'll see my writings. The writings I kind of relate to this of my pattern of negative thinking and feeling that I don't need a purpose can be, and it can tie into last week's vlog, the loop and the trap. Well, if I don't get myself out of that loop of those ruminating, constant, intrusive, ineffective thoughts, and then it goes into the trap of going into bed and feeling sorry for myself, or just shutting out and not realizing that I need, I don't need to feel that way. I need to take care of me. I need to keep myself engaged. I need to keep myself flowing and going. And that's sometimes hard. I think sometimes we relate it to is being burnt out as an autistic person. And in fact, yesterday I was burnt out as an autistic person. I had done a lot of errands. It was the first month, done a lot of errands. I was home. I was gone for approximately 3 or 4 hours. And by the 5th hour, I was just checked out. And I had to make a deal with myself that I could take a nap, but I could only take a nap for a certain period of time, and that I had to set an alarm to wake up. And I did. And that seemed to work, but I knew for a fact that I could not go back to bed until it was the time to go to bed. I think that's a thing. I think it's a healthy balance of knowing what you can do and what you can't do. And for me, that was what I had to understand as an autistic man. There's things that I have to do, there's things that I can do, and there's things I cannot do. And that's a big thing for me, because if I didn't do that, and if I didn't see that in my life, that would be a struggle. And I think it took a long time to see that. It also took a long time, and it took until even last night when I was watching a special on our local PBS affiliate WQED here in Pittsburgh about aging out of the autism, and how when you're in school, and I think I may have felt this way, but I didn't stay till I was 21. But many of these individuals did. They stayed till they were 21, and they had more complex needs and support needs than I did. But I think the fact is that you have to have purpose in your life. And even if, you need a job coach, or you need somebody to help you get in that process, or you need support, it's something that you have to have. You cannot just sit at home and be a couch potato and watch TV, because all that skill you built in the course of your educational or your vocational career will regress, and you'll just lose everything that you learn. And I think for me, 2 years ago, give or take, I think, I started to see that regression, and it took about 2 years to build it back to where it is today. And even more because, when we look at the beginning of, my independence, maybe 4 years ago, I wasn't taking care of myself at all. And then, I was just all over the place, back and forth. And eventually, I'm finally in a good spot right now. And it took 4 years to get there, after, just being cut off, not cut off, but just being left to learn. And then, having to lose and having to the bottom fall out and having to restart myself up slowly and just secure the spot, then slowly build those skills up to where we are 2 years down the road from where we were. And all amid a global pandemic, all amid many things, it was still a struggle. I had a toxic friendship, had to get rid of that. There was a lot of things. But now, and it's hard sometimes to keep that purpose. It really is, because sometimes you get angry and you get upset in your mind and you say, oh, I just don't want to do it anymore. And your anxiety builds up and you just want to run away from it. But running away is not a way of solving problems. I always, my parents always tell me, that doesn't solve anything. You can't just run away from your problems. I think a lot about the movie Forrest Gump, and that was a movie that probably wasn't appropriate at the time, but as a child, I did watch it. And, I think, all that, Jenny did, his will later become his wife, is she just ran away from all her problems. And when Forrest was the true love that, she could have been with all along, and he would have taken care of her. But she, and she obviously had a disease and, passed away. I mean, you think about all these things, sometimes you regret and you remorse for your mistakes. And I think that's part of why I feel I need to keep my purpose, for what I have to do. I have to feel I need purpose, because, I can't be just complaining and grieving about it, that it's not, that I don't like it. And, there are things I don't, think of certain ways of it. There are certain things I may not agree with or, understand or comply with, but I think, all in all, everything's well, and, my rights are not being violated. I'm safe. I think there's nothing regarding the realm of anxiety that I need to be gravely concerned about, or my safety. So I think, that all things considered, I think it's a good thing, to understand that it's okay, and that what I'm, and then, it's this time of the weekend, and it's Friday night now, and I'm trying to keep my weekend pretty busy if I can, but the struggles are Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays for some reason, and it is struggles with the feeling that I don't need purpose. And Wednesday, it's just but it's like the second or third day of my week, and I'm checked out at that point, and I just don't want to do anything anymore. And then it goes like a wave, it goes like a roller coaster, and the first day it's okay, and then the second day, I'm off a little bit to take care of myself mentally. Then Friday, I have a pretty productive day. Like today was a very productive day. It's just sometimes things not be done the way that you want them to be done, or the things that you think they should be done. And sometimes there's things we can control, and there's things we cannot control. So I think that's the big thing. And then in reality, it wasn't that bad. Things aren't that bad. We're here, we're safe, it's the weekend, and I should honestly be happy. But yet, sometimes all I can think about is all the bad, and all the negative things about the purpose that I have. But I know deep down in my heart, and I know deep down inside of me, that the purpose is what I need to keep going. And I know if I don't have that purpose now, compared to last week, or maybe even Sunday for that matter, it was bad Sunday, but we'll get into that in a minute. I think just having that purpose, having to know that it's important to have purpose in an autistic person's life, because if not, you're just going to regress, and you're going to have a lot of challenging behaviors as an autistic person if you don't find fulfillment and purpose, and and willingness to make changes. I think that's the thing too. Eventually I have to I'm working on finding purpose, but eventually I'm going to have to work on finding the willingness to change my situation. But right now it's about finding purpose and community. And that's another thing too, like you want to find inclusion, so to properly navigate the inclusive standard of your community, you have to have some sort of purpose to get out there and do something. Because if you don't, and I know for a fact, if you don't, you're just going to sit in your isolation spot, and you're going to ruminate, and you're going to think intrusive and inconsiderate and irresponsible thoughts. It's just not going to work. So but moving on back to the timeline of my waves of, not having purpose. So we are today, Friday night, and I could, about having that mood, and you just don't want to do anything, and you just don't have that interest, and you don't have that understanding, and you just want to give it all up, and you want to run away from it. But now that I watched that documentary last night, I have a better understanding that it's important to not have that feeling I need to keep the purpose, because it could be a lot worse, and it could be a lot more challenging. Eventually it could be in the legal system. So much could go on. So over the weekend it mixes, but the worst part, and probably the worst part of the roller coaster, is Sunday night when we have to resume the week again. My mind is all over the place. It balances. It figures out, do I want to do this? Do I not want to do this? Not worth it. It's not worth it. You just want to get into that flight mode, and you just want to run away from it. But in reality, I know it's not the best thing, and it takes a long time to hold on. But I think what I have to understand is it's not helpful, it's not useful to gripe about it to my inner circle. I don't feel that it's grateful or understanding. It doesn't really do any good healthy behavior. It's not a healthy behavior, and it doesn't do anything to improve it. To grieve it to my inner circle, maybe write it down, journal it, process it, cope with it another way, that maybe it improves in that manner. So I think it's just time how you work with it. And I think maybe if I didn't have so much grievance about not having the purpose to keep moving and keep going and doing what I have to do, instead of just grieving about it all the time, maybe I would be so much happier and so much more content. And another part of this is keeping engaged with television, movies, friends, other alternative coping skills, which Pinterest is a great thing, and I'm on there at Dustin's Dynasty. So, I've been pinning boards to find things to do, and coping mechanisms and ways to relieve stress, and quotes and all kinds of stuff. So I encourage you to check that out. So other than that, I think we're going to close it, because I think we're pretty good. But all honesty, I think the thing is that you have to have purpose in your life. You have to have some sort of purpose, because if not, you're just going to be a vegetable. And there's people, and I want to specify that not everybody who is autistic people are everybody's unique. There's no one person, two people that are the same way autistically. So you have to find what works for you, and sometimes not working what's for you means you need higher support needs, and sometimes not being able to get those support needs can be a long and exhaustive and extensive wait. Sometimes it takes advocates, and people, parents have to serve as advocates, and sometimes families of autistic people get a bad rap because they think it's thought that they don't know the autistic people's situation, but in fact they have to live and walk through that life and run them struggles. And I've been in that situation for a long time, where not only have I not been my best, but I've caused so much strain and caregiver burden. And that's a term that's used in the documentary last night. There's a burden when you put through that, and it's not it's nobody's fault, but it's just it's a lot of burden on people. And yet the list and all the navigational challenges that that a family of an autistic person has to bear, so that they make sure that they're cared for and well taken care of, is a lot. And even the quality of care sometimes is not always the most guaranteed best. But you have to weigh your pros and cons when looking at any situation. But for me, I've been very fortunate, and I can't say that for everyone, but as far as myself, I've been very fortunate. And in this current moment, in this current situation, I'm pretty safe and pretty well versed, and I'm well able to support myself, and I'm truly fortunate for other people who've given care for me. And I think it's just, I'm learning that it's childish to argue or grieve about but not wanting a purpose, and having a meltdown, or acting childish about it and getting into that not okay parent-child sort of state with my family or other support people can be challenging. And that's not who I am, and I wouldn't want anybody else. I don't understand, because I wouldn't want anybody else to see me like that. And why should those select few in that inner circle have a front row seat to that? They don't deserve that. Obviously, I've put them through enough hell enough. Why would I want to do that? And I think, I'm trying to rebuild that. And that's basically what I'm working on right now, is I'm trying to rebuild that while I'm maintaining a sense of purpose and a sense of mental health recovery. So with that being said, I want to thank you again for listening. Be sure to, again, follow my Pinterest, because I've been attacking stuff up there. And even through an Etsy shop, I did find a nice task list that's hopefully going to work with keeping me engaged. As far as the medicine, I just want a quick update. Everything's going well. We're talked to the doctor. Everything was great. So very pleased about that. With that being said, I think we'll just close there and say you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, on Dustin's Dynasty, Pinterest at Dustin's Dynasty, on the web at dustinsdynastyusa.com, and TikTok at Dustin's Dynasty ASD. I want to thank you for listening, and be sure to give a like and then subscribe to my channel. Have a good night now. Take care and have an awesome weekend. We'll see you later.